Hello, my name is Rose White, and for LGBT History Month Online 2021, I am reading chapters from my first novel, The Sisterhood. Joe's not looking well. Margaret looked across the table whilst continuing to butter toast. Who's that, dear? Naomi almost huffed impatiently, uncomfortable back in man clothes, and then remembered the terms of the deal, as she and Margaret had struck all those years ago. "Joe," she said to her beloved wife, reaching for the teapot, "the girl who organises the Sisterhood Club with me. Remember? You've met her. Tall, short-haired, blondish, sometimes wears glasses." "No, I don't remember specifically, I'm afraid." "Not well, did you say? What makes you think so?" "I don't know. Something." Part of Naomi was already beginning to wish she hadn't started this topic of conversation, but it was too late now, and the trick was to extract what could be extracted from the situation and then write the rest off. She seemed distracted last night, a bit distant. I ought to have asked her at the time, I suppose, but you know how it is. Well, not really, Donald. No, I don't. Margaret contemplated marmalade and then decided against it. Do you think you ought to do anything? What? Good God, no. Not at the moment, anyway. I only mentioned it. Well, I suppose I mentioned it because I was struck by it. But I didn't mean for me to do anything. I don't even know what the problem might be, or even if there is one at all. You're not normally prone to flights of imagination, dear, Margaret replied. If you thought something was wrong, then it probably is. Humph. I'll take that as a compliment. I might phone her later today, see how she is, just in case. Margaret smiled indulgently. That would be a good idea, I'm sure. I've got the coffee morning over at Joyce's. I take it you'll be home for dinner? Oh, absolutely. Business as usual again until next month. Margaret threw her husband one of those looks. If you're worried about one of your friends, she said, with a hint of steel in her voice, you'd better make sure it doesn't take over all the proper business. Naomi smiled at her and hoped it came over as reassurance. It won't, she said indulgently. Naomi's safely back in her box, away from your or anyone else's eyes. The itch is scratched for another month or so, and everything's back to normal as it always is. Had they been sitting closer together, for instance, if the table had been a little smaller, she would have reached out and patted Margaret's hand for emphasis. As it was, a smile would have to do before attention was turned once again to the morning broadsheet spread out between them. If you're thinking this Joe person isn't well, Margaret resumed after all too short an interval, however, you must have had a reason for thinking it in the first place, surely. She turned slightly to look at Naomi, her husband of 30 years or more. I'm just reminding you of what we agreed, that's all. You've never mentioned any of them before, and I'm entitled to wonder what's prompted you to start now, I think. I'm not arguing the point, dearest, but there really is nothing to worry about. I'll make a phone call or two, see if I can get hold of her, and then just ask her if everything's all right. Even if it isn't, I can't see that there'd be a great deal I could do about it in any case. She has her life, and we have ours. But I do feel that I ought to at least ask. Margaret pursed her lips in thought. I still can't recall her. Are you certain we've met? Naomi raised an eyebrow. Not certain, no. But I had it in my mind that you had. Maybe back in the early days? I tend not to think about that sort of thing very much, as you well know. There was definite disapproval in her tone this time. It was impossible not to notice. Naomi finished her tea and stood up. Time I was going, she said, not altogether convincingly. She shrugged into the jacket of her suit and picked up the briefcase, without which her male counterpart simply could not function. Enjoy coffee. I'll be back at the usual time. I thought I'd do fish. That sounds fine. Naomi leaned over and kissed Margaret delicately on the top of her head. See you. Margaret listened to the door close and closed her eyes in thought for a moment. I definitely don't remember a Joe, she murmured in vague puzzlement. Nor a Joanne, Joanna, Josephine. Very strange. Then she dismissed the matter as her thoughts turned to the morning's social activities and the technicalities of cooking fish. She was quietly confident that her husband would not bring his dirty business home with him, and if it didn't cross her doorstep, then it was nothing to do with her. And if you want to hear more about Naomi and Margaret, you'll find it in the rest of the book. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.